Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Spinner Rack. Today we're going to be discussing that fantastic episode of Game of Thrones, episode 4, season 7. Once again, I got my boy Cal, not Cal Ripken, but Calvin Ellis. We're going to be discussing the show. So, Cal, are you ready to get it down?
Always ready to rock in the early morning or the late night.
Okay. So, listen, Cal, let's start with the North first. So, we have Arya's return, bro. What do you think about that? She returns to Winterfell. You know, how does her sister, what do you think about her sister and how they get together? What about Arya's just entrance to Winterfell? What's your thoughts?
That was a pretty joyless reunion at the end of the day. You meet your sister who you didn't know was alive after years at this point, and they both seem to be almost devoid of emotion about seeing each other once more. They're so distant from the characters. They're so distant from the characters that they were when they started off, but they also seem to be distant from the emotional connection that they had as siblings. So that was pretty peculiar at the end of the day.
I kind of disagree. I think it was an excellent reunion, and the reason why is you do recall the very beginning of the first season. They didn't get along, you know. I mean, to the point where Arya wanted to beat up her sister, and her father was like, no, you don't do stuff like that. They didn't get along. You know, you have Sansa, who's the perfect ladies' lady, and Arya, who was the tomboy. I mean, Sansa basically followed her mother and protocol, and she did everything that was right, and she kind of like, didn't pay attention to Jon Snow, whereas Arya, her hero was her father and Jon Snow. Neil, the little sword she got was made by Jon Snow. I mean, that's how much. And in the episode, she's like, dude, when Jon sees you, it's too bad he's not here. When he saw me, he was like flabbergasted. When he sees you, he's gonna be thunderstruck because you guys are that but basically they were that close. So you can see the tension, the developments. Arya becomes what she was always intended to be, a warrior, where Sansa becomes the lady in Winterfell. Whether she's the lady in Winterfell, the Dreadfort, the Vale, whatever, she becomes a lady. Both of them basically epitomize, and you still have that tension. And then during the episode, you see that where Arya says, "Hey, my list," and many of the people have died, and Sansa's like, this chick is nuts. But then she sees her fighting. She sees Bran talking about the list, and she's like, "What?" Then she sees her fighting with Brienne and seeing the skill she has, so she's coming around like, yo, this girl is a lot more than I thought, She's not the Arya, or she's become the Arya that she always wanted to be, or something like that. I kind of disagree with that, my brother.
Well, you did a good job of summarizing the show, but it doesn't negate anything that I said in terms of it. Your sister, who you thought was dead, regardless of whatever you were at with your sister at some point. You guys have not seen each other in years. You're meeting again for the first time in years when you don't know if the other person is alive, and it's a totally joyless, emotionless affair. So hey, what can I say? Disagreements. I can't stop you from disagreeing. But bottom line is, the characterization for those two is, that was just incredibly peculiar. That fight between Arya and Brienne. Yeah, that was a bunch of nonsense. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I said, yes, she's been trained as an assassin, not to fight straight up. And a lot of people seem to forget this. If you're a ninjas attack from the dark, from the shadows, from surprise, from behind. They did so much to try to aggrandize all the training that she's had. No, Brienne is a face-to-face warrior. She should have just mowed her down. She had reach. She had strength. But they did the whole thing to make it look cool. But, it depends. If you're not somebody who's, well-versed with it, it comes across very slick. It does a very good job for Arya. It totally diminishes Brienne's ability as someone who defeated the Hound, as we keep being told. So, I just looked at it and was like, okay, well, this is what people want to see. So, nothing I can say about that.
Well, look, I don't know if you saw the Into the Scene by Dan and Dave, right? D&D, the executive producers, and they basically went through the scene, and basically Arya has developed so much over time, and her training as an assassin was top notch, and Brienne is one of the premier fighters in the Seven Kingdoms, and what you see here is Arya, she may not have the strength, she may not have, but the skill, she has the skill. I think that's what they're trying to emphasize. That this girl is not just some little pushover. She's been trained by some of the best assassins ever was.
And Brienne is what, chopped liver?
No, they're saying straight up. In the interview, they said Brienne is the best fighter. She beat the Hound. There's no joke. But, her skill set is a little different. That's why you see when she has a knife, going straight up.
See, that works if you, I don't want to say anything that'll be insulting to someone else. That works if you like the scene. It doesn't make the scene legitimate. It works if you are enthusiastic about seeing that sort of matchup. It doesn't, okay? It doesn't make the scene valid. If she's the best fighter, she's the best fighter. There are no buts. She would look, she would assess the situation. She's like, okay, she's keeping her distance, she's quicker, and she would make the necessary adjustments so she could do she could actually, all right, do some proper training with her. But as far as it seems right over here, they just wanted to have a cool scene. And you can explain it away, but it doesn't change from the fact that it doesn't do it does a whole bunch of service for Arya, and it diminishes Brienne as a fighter. And they did it in, 30 seconds?
Interesting. So what do you think of the meeting with Bran, with Arya and Bran?
Boring.
Boring? I mean, he basically told her, he saw her, and I think one thing I liked about that scene is that Sansa explains that he's just having visions. I think she still doesn't quite understand who he is, but the fact that he's having visions. And let's not forget the fact that when Littlefinger gave him the Valyrian steel dagger, he's trying to buy his loyalty basically, and then he just hands it off to Arya. Like, I don't need this. What did he say? Cripples don't need it, or something like that. I wasn't crazy about that line. I thought he should use another line, but yeah, he basically gives it a.
I hope Bran actually does something before the series is over. I've spent the majority of this time watching this guy being dragged around, or him laying on his back and just talking weird. I would really like to see him actually do something, for all this three-eyed raven talk. Yeah, other than that, it's just malarkey.
I mean, he basically tells when he's talking to I think Mira, when Mira basically comes to him and says, "Hey, I dragged you all around." So when she's leaving, he says, "Thanks," and I dragged you around the north. My brother died for you. Hodor died for you. And all you can basically say is just a thank. And he says, Bran. She says basically, he basically died in that cave. He's like, I can remember what Bran felt like. He's more than Bran. Well,
then show it. All you're doing is this guy talking weird, acting weird, and no offense to him being, no offense to his being a paraplegic. But at the same point, he's just sitting or laying around half the time. There was some more dynamism when at least Hodor was around and he was able to switch up that way. But other than that, you're not showing anything. You're just getting this dude and it's just coming across as, cryptic and weird. You got to do something.
So, moving on. Jon and the Queen. What do you think about that scene?
That's that's actually some of the better part of the show, the interaction between the two of them. You can there's something budding right there. I'm not talking necessarily romance or anything, but there is something budding right there. They seem to be genuinely interested in each other. Primarily, I think, because Jon won't take the knee. I think if he ever does, Daenerys will have no interest in him whatsoever. But that's her driving thing. She, I want you to take the knee. I want you to swear fealty. And Jon's kind of like, I can't do it. So I think that resistance right over there, and I think he's also probably the last masculine character on the show, despite him being as humble as all bleeding get out. So I am interested in seeing how that shapes up, how that develops, going forward. The cave scene was actually very nice too, which I thought would have been a slam dunk in terms of everything that he would need. He's like, look at all this Dragonstone, and now you would see these writings, these carvings on the wall, drawings rather on the wall about the White Walkers, so there shouldn't be any problem. She's like, yeah, I will fight for you and your people if you take the knee. I'm like, we're back to this again? Don't you see the paintings on the wall? Come on. But still good nonetheless.
I thought both of them, their development is pretty good. I mean, they are getting a little closer faster than I thought they would, but I mean, it's only, how many, 6 or 7 episodes, so they got to do this as fast as possible. I thought that but it's also believable. I mean, these two actors getting together, I can see it happening. Though, I think him bending the knee is a big thing for her. You know, I mean, I think she's starting to she's come across that there is a threat in the North, you know, a major threat. But she also considers Cersei the biggest threat of them all. You know, she's like, we got to knock off Cersei no matter what. So I thought that's pretty interesting. And the very fact that in the middle of that scene when, I mean, she says, I'm tired of clever plans, when she's talking to Tyrion and telling him, you know, it's like, you don't really want to kill your family. And her plan is just to take the dragons and go to the right people and just burn the damn thing down to a slag. And she actually asks Jon for his advice, and he basically tells her, I don't think you should basically do that. And then we segue right into her battling Jaime on the field of fire, basically. I thought that was pretty interesting. She took his advice. Don't destroy the city, but she's going after the army. Okay? I mean, agree? Disagree?
I wasn't certain if that was, I'm not certain what his advice was. He just said, look, if you need to represent yourself in a manner that these people continue to believe in you, and I suppose burning down the Red Keep, they wouldn't believe in you. But then I'm thinking, these Dothraki. All they want to do is kill anyways. Like, hey, you destroyed everything in one swoop. Wow, she's great. But I'm not too sure how all that plays. It would be more difficult. It would be more difficult for her in terms of ruling the people of King's Landing and so on and so forth. It would be more difficult for her in terms of ruling them. But the people who are with her, I could see them, like, yeah, this is great. This is one of the reasons why we're following you, is because we expect that you're going to win, that you're, omnipotent in our eyes. You're riding dragons, you're burning everything down. You can go in fire and you don't die. So you along that trajectory, I can't really see them having too much of a problem. In terms of the people of King's Landing, yes, there's where you're going to run into some difficulties.
Well, she's trying to become the queen of all the seven kingdoms, and destroying the seat of power just to get to Cersei and killing innocent people doesn't make any sense. And that's what Jon is basically, and that's also what Tyrion is saying. That's why Tyrion had that great idea. Hey, we're going to use the Dornishmen. We're going to use the people from the Reach to besiege King's Landing, because they're all people from the Seven Kingdom, and then we're going to attack Casterly Rock. It was a good plan, but he just got outplayed by Jaime and Cersei. So, or as she said, probably he doesn't want to kill his siblings.
No, he got outplayed by the script. Other than that, no, because these guys landed. They had these particular forces. The Lannisters were really up against their backs. They didn't have any allies. Magically, they get Euron, and then after that, everything just goes bad. For Daenerys. I was like, this is just plot. There was nothing here. This is the way the chessboard is set up. Daenerys should have been able to make some serious headway before any of that happened, and these dominoes just started falling with her. And you're like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. This is just a plot structure. This is just what's going to happen because this is what's written to happen. But it wasn't like this was set up to a point like, oh, I could actually see this happening. But it's a Game of Thrones trophy where any plan must fail, because then that's how we keep everybody on their toes. And then it makes her look even better when she comes back this episode and has that great victory on the battlefield.
Good point. So what do you think about the reunion between Theon and Jon? I mean, I thought Jon was going to kill his ass.
I think he should, because Theon has no value as a character any longer. Theon, I don't know if Theon is a redeemable character. What he did was pretty bad in terms of betraying Robb. I don't know if that's something that's redeemable, forgivable in terms of the structure and in terms of the story, the world that's created there. I don't know. But he's just there as this sad sack eunuch, and I'm tired of seeing him. He doesn't bring anything to the table other than like just total pathos. I don't even know if he's a pitiable character for most people. I don't know how people think about him or react to him. Either do something with him or kill him off. He's just he hasn't become a nuisance yet, but man, he's like that old animal that just you're waiting to die, or because you don't have the heart to put him into sleep. You have to do something with him as well. That whole situation with him and Jon, even that goes light, because Jon, like, if you didn't help Sansa, I would kill you right now. Then what's the point? What's the point?
Right. I mean, but you remember he did some despicable things, but at the same time also, everybody in the North thought he killed Bran and Rickon, which he didn't do. Everybody in the North thought he was the one that destroyed this Winterfell, but it wasn't him, it was Ramsay. Everybody in the North thought that he betrayed Robb naturally, and that's probably one of the biggest things. But because Robb had sent him back to his father to get help, and well, then again, his father wasn't going to listen. He's like, I'm not going to work with Robb, never, So there was really never a chance for him to help his Robb with his father. Probably he could have came back and done something separate, but it wasn't there. But I thought the scene was really good in that you had Jon, all the emotion and all the power and all the hate that he had for what he did, the betrayal of his family and all the murder of his brothers. But he saved Sansa, and that's what he set up. And Theon says at the very beginning, he says, how Sansa basically, thrown that out, to protect himself. And probably that was the smartest thing to do, because if not, Jon would have killed or run him straight through. But his men don't even respect him, because remember, he left his sister. They're like, Theon, Euron got her, and you can see how disgusted they were. He should have died trying to get a sister. We know he would have died, but as far as they're concerned, he should have tried. And for them, he's not much of a man. So he's
not.
Yeah. So he comes to Dragonstone looking for the Queen's help, and she's not there. The question is, what happens after that? Does he? This is just pure speculation. Does he then go? Does he enlist Jon's help, or the Queen comes back and helps him? I'm not sure. But you're right. There's a point where we are with Theon. How much more can it go? I mean, Dave and Dan, again, they talked about how Theon, he was trying to rebuild himself with Yara, his sister, and all of a sudden, he sees this horrific battle, people getting mutilated, and what does he do? He reverts back to Reek. And remember, he's been Reek brutalized for a while, and so he just jumps off because he just can't handle it. And the question is, will he be able to overcome? I think he will, And
overcome what? There's nothing left for this guy. He's not going to be king or in any position of power over there in the Iron Isles. That's going to all be his sister. So he's going to spend the rest of his life being a sub. He's going to be he's going to spend the rest of his life being a shell of what he formerly was. There's nothing left for him.
Well, like I told you before, I think we did this the last episode. I think there's some characters who have to be around, because when the war is over, someone has to rebuild. And I think Theon and his sister, one of those two will be around. I can't guarantee 100%. I think that, Sam will be around. I think that, Jaime or Tyrion will be around. I mean, someone has to be there to rebuild the Seven Kingdoms. You can't just say, oh, well, Jon, they defeat the White Walkers, and there's no one there. This is the same argument you had with all the kids and all the women fighting.
Theon doesn't need to be around to rebuild anything. There'll be plenty of people around who can rebuild better than him. Nobody respects him. No one trusts him. There's no reason for him to even be in this discussion about being around. As a character, he has served whatever usage he had, and his usage up until he escaped was to be a piñata. I look at Theon's whole thing, where Theon has been abused, mutilated, disrespected. No one likes him. He's just the lowest of the low at this point, and he's there around. There's not going to be any empowerment for Theon. There's not going to be any empowerment or anything of that situation for Theon. He's the biggest victim on this show. Literally the biggest victim on the show. Nobody cares. Sansa, who got put into these situations, and oh no, we can't have the woman be a victim. She's got to be empowered. She goes off, she becomes, she goes off to become Lady Stark. So there's that, there's that dichotomy right over there. Who needs to be empowered and who doesn't? And it's palpable. It's right there. Open your eyes, people.
Okay, moving on. The biggest piece. Well, we all talked about this episode. Jaime Lannister, my man Bronn, and the Field of Fire. So what do you think about that whole scene part? What do you think about that?
It lost a little luster because they hinted at it with the whole discussion between Daenerys and Jon. It would have been something if she, I would have liked it better if she had talked to them and you just see her walking, and that would be the end of it. And the next thing you just cut, And the fight, the fight happens. But we knew this was coming because she had taken too many. She had taken 3 different losses. So we knew this was coming. That I guess takes a little bit of the shine off of it. But the battle itself was, I can't say it was even well choreographed because it's almost entirely CGI. So it's very well rendered at the end. It's very well rendered at the end of the day. But the biggest part of it was the dragon. And the showdown that I was waiting to see was the showdown between that ballista and the dragon. If that ballista had taken out a dragon or done anything more than annoy it as much as it did, I would have said, this is bull roar. This is a dragon. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, even in the Hobbit, when they were able to take out Smaug, it was because Smaug's armor, there was a chink in Smaug's armor, so they were able to, not just hit him, but they could bypass the normal strength that he possesses in terms of his armor. Here, those things weren't even those ballista shots that they were firing. Those were a steel head, and the rest of it was wood. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. That thing would probably break on impact. It wouldn't even stand strong enough. So when they finally, I love the whole thing because, she's charging right at him, which I thought was stupid. I said, why would you charge right, at the whole thing and it's firing at you? But hey, that's what that builds for, I guess the suspense that everybody wants to see. She charges right at it. He makes that hit. The dragon falls and he pulls out and then just burns the thing to the. I was like, yeah, get rid of that thing. I don't want to see that plot device. Get rid of it. You're going to have to fight. Okay, you're not going to be able to get out of this with some, do it machina thing to come over here and save your butt. You're going to have to fight. So I enjoyed that portion. And even when the dragon falls down and he sees it like the thing is being charred and burned, but I guess not fast enough, so he crushes it with his wing. I was like, yeah, just get rid of it. So that part I really enjoyed. And then Jaime, of course, deciding he was going to try to take what little opportunity he had, and then it was just priceless. Whereas not so much that she sees him, but the dragon looks like him, and I love the look on his face. Like, are you stupid? you must be out of your mind. You should be riding the other way. You should be riding the other way. Here, you know what? Let me give you a reward for your idiocy, and just breathe all dragon fire on him. And then, of course, we get the normal Game of Thrones ending, which is a cliffhanger. The perennial, the eternal tease that this show actually is, just to watch him sink. Oh, well. Well, we know he'll get out of it. We'll probably won't even see him get out of it. Bronn will probably be the guy who swam down, released his armor, and he'll be okay. It's not captured.
Well, I got to say, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. But I thought the ballista, though, or the scorpions they're calling in the show. If we saw, I was just rewatching the fight in Marine where the dragon was in the arena and they were throwing spears at it. Just regular men were just throwing spears, and it was actually getting into the dragon. It was sticking, and Danny goes to try to remove one of them from basically the same thing that happened here. And this is where Qyburn gets the idea. Hey, in Marine, you had these animals can get hurt. People talked about how the spears were getting put into the dragon and stuff like that. And so, he devising the scorpion or the ballista basically comes up with an idea. Hey, if this thing can get hurt, what if we get an even more powerful weapon, basically a spear throwing machine? And I think it works, because now Danny can't come along and say, oh, well, I have the most powerful air force. No, you have anti-air missiles that can come out at you. So I kind of like that. I thought that was a pretty good approach. Now, Jaime and Bronn. Hello? Sorry
to cut in, but I think it's good if it works. But it's been shown that they would need like 50 or 60 of those things at one time to really come after a dragon. Because one, there's no guarantee you're going to hit, and then one hit is not going to do it.
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But that's why Qyburn said in the other episode, where he says, I have all the blacksmiths in the city working on them, creating them. So the implication was that there are more than just one that were being created,
Right. But dragon.
Well, there's more than one dragon, but it seems that she only rides one at a time. Well, she only rides one Drogon. She doesn't really ride the other two. She didn't bring the other two.
She can direct. The other two can be direct. I mean, in the battlefield situation, you have 3 dragons. you're only going to have so many of these ballistas, okay? And this is going to be a moving target. They're breathing fire, and they don't have to, as long as they're out of range, they can still do a whole bunch of damage at the end of the day. So I'm not certain how well that plays out. But you were saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but even if they're out of range, you can at least push them out of the range that you want. Let's say they're trying to come to the Red Keep. She has them in King's Landing. If there's enough of them, they're going to stay out of range, and then that affects how well they can support the troops and stuff. But look, I understand. These are basically anti-missile defense. They're not going to be perfect. It's like the United States going against Serbia. Yeah, we'll blow you up, but the United States planes are going to be much further up, before they blow people up. So I thought it wasn't too bad. But getting back to Jamie, I thought the battle was rendered very well. I like the fact that Jamie's like, he sees the Dothraki. I mean, they hear the Dothraki coming. They're like thunder in the background. They're just coming down, and then you see them. You're like, oh my gosh, they're coming for a full-blooded charge. There's supposed to be like 100,000 of them, I think, that she was able to gather up when she came over to the Seven Kingdoms. They see them, and he's like, yo. Bron's like, yo, you gotta take off, bro. And he's like, we can do this. And he lines up. He actually lines up in a it's kind of like a square. They don't really do a full square, but they line up and a shield wall. And you're like, probably they can do this. But then Drogon comes and just rips a hole through them, and the Dothraki just come straight through too. I thought that was like, I said, yeah, Jamie's a good commander. He's not a dumb dude. And he thinks he can hold them off. And we see it doesn't work quite as well as it. And the Dothrakis just look like completely blood-curdling. You see these guys driving down, doing two of those arcs, standing on top of horses, jumping through people, just cutting, just completely fantastic. So I kind of love that battle. That's one of my favorite battles right now. Unlike the Battle of the Sea, where it was so dark and you can't see what the hell is going on. Here, this is clearly open. You can see what's happening to everybody. You have the dragon element, you have the Dothraki element, but you also have the Lannisters kicking butt too. They're fighting too. You have Tarly's son, Rickon Dickon saving Jamie. I thought it was damn good. And I give him props for that stuff. And Jamie trying to be in the Dragon Slayer. Hey, you saw Tyrion. He was saying, "Don't do it, don't do it." And like you said, the Dragon.
I thought he was charging to kill Daenerys. I don't think he thought for a minute he could kill that dragon.
No, I agree with you. I think I would just call him the Dragon Slayer because, I think he thought that if he kills her, then probably they'll immobilize the dragon. But like you said, the dragon turns around and says, "What the hell are you doing, bro?" And breathes on fire at him. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good scene. One of the best battles I've seen in Game of Thrones. So overall, what is your rating for the episode, bro? Oh, wait, one point I wanted to make. So the key thing, I think, just to make sure people don't get lost, Cersei got the gold, This is only the tail end of the Lannister military machine. That's what they were talking about in the beginning, Tarly, Sam's father, and Jamie, where he's like, the gold got through King's Landing. So basically, she's gotten the money. She's being paid. She's paid off the Iron Bank. And remember, one of the things the Iron Bank said is that, they could help her get more troops. So I wonder how that's going to affect in the future episodes. Because we were looking at Cersei going downhill, but now that she paid off her debt, it opens up a whole new possibilities, right?
I don't know. What possibilities do you have when your army just got decimated?
No, first of all, they said this was just the tail end of the army. Most of the army had already gone through. But also the fact that now that she paid off the bank, the bank, what do? They make money off of interest. So they're willing to extend her more credit so that she can do other things. So
she just landed all of this money. It has to be much more money, exponentially more money than what she owed the bank. Why would she go back into debt with the bank? She has enough money.
Well, I don't know. Probably she has some plans. Probably, like I said, probably she's getting new troops. I don't know. But this is just something that I thought was like, wow. Because a lot of people are thinking online, and a lot of people are thinking that the dragons are coming, the bank will never get its gold, but in fact the bank actually got its gold. Because you see him in the scene with Cersei, you're like, yo, as soon as we get this gold, we're gonna give you more credit. We'll hook you up however you want. This is what we like about you, and her plan worked. with the minor loss of Jamie and Ron, naturally, and the tail end of the army. But, does she even care? So I don't know. So we'll see. But overall, bro, what do you think of the episode? What's your rating?
This is a 3.
5?
3.
What? Another freaking 3?
Hey, we already had some off-time discussion. The character development on this show is unbalanced. All of the female characters have received excellent character development. None of the male characters have, and I suppose everybody's just happy with that. So I can't give it a 5 because, again, you're ignoring half of the equation. Some of the sequencing that you're putting up just is for eye candy and for eye candy, shock value, or just for fangasm. That Brienne fight with Arya was ridiculous. At the end of the day, went on much too long. She should have just taken a big swipe at her, rushed her, picked her up, and threw her up against the wall. That would have been the end of it. The best part of it was that battle. The best part of it was the battle with the dragon. Okay, that was the best part of it. I think that was the most flawless part of this episode. But you still have a bunch of other stuff that is just weighing it down. Bran is boring. Theon is pathetic. Cersei, just comes with wins out of damn nowhere. You got to do something. You got to start wrapping this up. You have to wind it up. Some of these guys need to go. And you can just focus on the 5 or 6 principal characters and the supporting characters and just go from there. But a lot of the stuff is just, hey, it's just hanging at this point. These are just hanging chads. You got to pull the chads off, and it's time to move on.
Dude, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. I think we're watching a different show. But hey, this is a freaking 5. If I could go up to 6 or 7 to bring your 3 up to a 5, I would. But it's like, what?
Since it's gonna be about a 3 anyway. Next time I'll just give it a 1.
What?
We could just go from there. Then that way it'll actually be a 3. I'm not a Game of Thrones fanboy where I'm just going to give it a high mark because, hey, I'm just happy that an episode came out. I am certainly have better episodes in the pocket that are going to be coming down. But like I told you before, one of the reasons why I never watch Game of Thrones episode to episode is because episode to episode, it doesn't hold up very well for me. If I can watch them in sequence, by episode 6 or 7, that's when you start getting some rewards, some payback, not necessarily payback, but payoff from being a viewer. But initially, those first 3-4 episodes, they're still doing a lot just to build up whatever the thrust is of that particular season. And this is the last season. We're at episode 4. And there's still a lot that needs to be covered. It's like the series I was watching. It was only 3 seasons long. And then in the 3rd season, they wrapped everything up. And there was still all these damn unanswered questions. This is probably one of the most horribly written shows I had ever seen, but people liked it because it was bloody. Here I'm looking at Game of Thrones, which is a much better written series in comparison. But in the same breath, you still have a lot of stuff to wrap up. You have a handful of episodes, and you're taking your sweet time about it. So you're taking your sweet time. I'm going to give you a grade that represents that you need to wrap this up.
And I totally disagree. They've done an excellent job of moving forward this season compared to some of the glacial seasons they've had before with some of these characters. I think they've done great. And not being a fanboy, I think they've done things that the audience has enjoyed. I think they've done things to move the plot forward. So I give it a strong 5. That averages it out to a 4 for both of us. So, I can only recommend not only this season, but this episode.
It averages out to 4 Spinnerack. My mark is still a 3.
So, I just want to say, everybody, thank you for listening. Cal, thank you for being here. And I think Spinnerack out. Come back next time. Later.
See you guys later.